So it's I don't kind of like stress a lot. I don't stress out a lot, but it's kind of like also, listening to music, kind of like just for myself, so I can be okay while going to school and working full time. What about you, Sonia?
Well, for me, I love everything arts and crafts. So during the pandemic, I've gotten a lot into cake decorating, and it's been a huge outlet for me. It has helped me a lot. Also, like taking the baby to the park to give us that kind of like breathing fresh air. Those are the things that had worked for me the most. How about you, Lisette? What has been good for you?
Hello. Yes, well, some things that have been working for me is I like to walk. I like to go to the beach, just to keep my mind sane. Just reading books. Something that another thing that I do is I like to cook, and I used to hate cooking, but with this whole quarantine, I've been using some YouTube food channels and just trying to keep myself sane.
Well, I'm glad we have all been finding our own ways to take care of ourselves during this quarantine. Um, and though we have been able to find things for us to accommodate to and take care of ourselves, I know that all of us have been through some barriers. And though I am a first year student, one barrier that I do see happening for myself is that I will be struggling financially. I don't know exactly how I will be doing it after I transfer. Right now, I am in a pretty good position. I am getting financial aid. I am also part of EOPNS at my school. And so I get book vouchers. But as I transfer, I don't know how I will be doing that in the future, if there are going to be any programs who that are going to be able to do the same for me, giving me a book voucher. I never knew about the program up until someone else had told me. And so I feel like that's a barrier in being able to find different ways to get some money, some scholarships to be able to pay for books, for tuition, or things as such. How about you, Berenice?
I think thank you for sharing the cultural competence that we need to have in our colleges, Vanessa. You mentioned someone told you about the program. Like, that's the thing that I've been dealing with this whole entire time at my college, Rio Hondo College. And I'm sure that it's, every woman of color is dealing with this at their own college. Like, how come we need to find out about it from a colleague or a classmate? You know what I mean? Why can't, when we come in, we're already identified as, we need the most assistance we could possibly get. And that's what I've been dealing with on the campus. I've been dealing with, like, I barely, met some of the most amazing mentors 4 or 5 years down the line. Miss Arellano, I barely met Miss Arellano, not even a year ago. And so these are the struggles that we face. I've been facing that too. And even before COVID, I remember I struggled so much with having a sitter, or I always needed my son with me. And that was pre COVID. And I'm still struggling right now. But, nobody ever allowed my son on campus. They always said it was a liability. So it's just things like that. Like, I am a college student, but of course I'm a mother first. And I always try to, some professors allowed my son on campus and said, I won't say anything. Others literally escorted me off of the campus and said, your child cannot be on campus because that is a liability, and we're not going to allow that. So, those are the things that we face as college students and as mothers. So, yeah, it's been very, very tough. I would like to ask Leticia, what have you, any barriers that you faced on campus?
Hi, thank you, Bernice. It's some of them most like since like I mentioned it before, I'm a full-time employee. Um, the only time that I can attend college is in the evening. So as you mentioned it, we don't have a lot of support. All of the workshops and webinars, most of them are during work hours, and I can attend them. So I feel like that's kind of like a barrier as well, because we don't know about financial aid, we don't know about grants, we don't know about scholarships a lot, because even though we try to make it on time or join in a webinar, we also have to kind of like, be at work, or when we were in person as well. I could only take evening classes, and by then nothing was available for us. So it was just kind of like missing all the great opportunities, because I feel like some of the colleges don't accommodate to us, to like the evening students. And like Vanessa said, like it's like, let's say it's unfortunate that we have to be thinking what's gonna happen next, because we're not financially stable, saying, am I gonna get covered if I transfer to the university? Who's gonna help me out? Which grant can I get? With no, what loan can I get? It's just kind of like concerning. What about you, Sonia? What are your thoughts?
Well, my biggest struggle has been childcare, and all yours, Leticia and Bernice's experience resonate with me so much, because the thing is that as Latinas, most of us have to work too, because we need to provide for our children. And this childcare issue, I think that is starting to be talked about, even by in government and all of that. But I think that given the disparities that are between us Latinas, or birthing and primary caregiver Latinx folks, it affects us even more. Like, we need to work, so a lot of us are part-time students, and we cannot get the benefit of childcare, which comes to what Berenice was saying, that sometimes she even had to take her child to school, and you also have to work. So if you are a part-time student, maybe you will not be able to get some of the benefits that you need. So to me, that has been my biggest struggle with the daycare, and how it affects me to get higher education as well as to work. How about you, Lisette? What have been your biggest struggles?
Hi. Yes, my biggest struggles has been working two jobs and trying with, with COVID, you could only be at one site or not, or another site. So just trying to do two part-times at the same time, but I can't be at all the schools as well. Another struggle that has been in a barrier, will be waiting for the child practicum class at Rio Hondo. You wait so long and it stops you because then you can't continue with your education. It's holding it just to make sure that you get into a class and you expect something from the class, but then you still have to keep on waiting. So there's a big waiting list on the practicum class at Rio Hondo College.
Well, we all have our barriers, whether it has to do with childcare, financial aid, or even cultural competence. But what are some things that going into college you had expected out of it? We could start off with you, Berenice.
Yeah, definitely. Like we mentioned, I never figured that these would be all the barriers that I would face. What I initially thought, as a first generation student, I don't have parents or siblings to tell me this is your experience, you need to ask for this. I initially thought walking onto campus, I'm going to have someone take me under their wing and just give me all the tools, right? And give me all the programs that I need to be in. Excuse me. And that wasn't the case. I took many courses that I did not need, just because, honestly, let's be honest, college counselors just had to put me in some classes and said that they met with me, and it's just, I was pretty lost and confused. And a lot of the classes that I needed myself were not available to me. Like many of my colleagues have said, they have to go to work, they have to take care of their kids, and even if they don't have children, they have to go to work, they have to have a full-time job. So like me, when I would come in, I would only have the evenings to schedule out whatever, classes I would take. Every single one of the classes that I needed were not catered to me. They were catered to the average college student that would be there from Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. or whatever. So if I needed that class, there was no way that I would take it. It wasn't until years after that, they became, not that they became available, but I actually lost my job. So I was able to go to that morning class, but there, most of them, most of the majority of the classes that we need aren't available for us. So I would like that inclusivity for all students, not just and as Leticia said, not just students who are coming out of high school and, you know, sometimes they don't have a job or something like that. I would like it to be include all of us included in when the scheduling of, you know, what courses we needed. And not only that, I would expect that, you know, for parents, not only mothers but fathers who needed childcare, like Sonia mentioned, so that that could be available for us. We do have, we're lucky enough to have a child care center, but if it wasn't for the practicum, you know, courses, we wouldn't have that child center. I know that at El Camino, Sonia doesn't have that, you know, that childcare center. So, you know, so we would expect that coming in. And not only that, at our childcare center at Rio Hondo, you have to be a full-time student, which a lot of the times, sometimes, you know, we have to work. We can't be a full-time student, but we still need the childcare. And not only that, it's only preschool age. So my son just hit that mark where he just passed preschool. He's in kindergarten now. So where's my daycare? You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, we're facing a lot of barriers that we didn't think we would be facing. We thought in this place they would have answers to it all, and we're actually we're dealing with a lot. So initially that's the bare minimum I expected, you know. So that's pretty much my experience and what I initially expected out of my college, and we do not have that till this day. Again, I the only reason why I was able to get the courses I needed was because I lost my job, so I'm now available, you know, from that morning time. So that still needs to happen. So, what about you, Leticia? I would like to bring it on to you. What do you expect out of our college?
I pretty much agree with you, Bernice, because I also had an experience, like Lisette said about a practicum class, that it was holding me back from getting a job because that was one of the requirements that I needed to have practicum class. I mean, the practicum class in order to get the job. And I could imagine, you know, this happened back in like 2014, 2015. It took me a year. I was on the waiting list for a year to actually be able to take the practicum class. And like you said, Bernice, it's hard because we don't have a lot of I feel like the college doesn't have a lot of flexibility when it comes to like the like evening classes. And I feel like we are the ones who are put in the spot saying like, do I kind of like go to work or do I take this class? So it's kind of like making us choose. If you want your education, you kind of like have to be part-time, um, be a part-time employee. But it's like I don't feel it should be like that. I feel like the college has to have that flexibility for you, have more evening classes, you know, more in the afternoon, maybe like a Saturday class for you to be able to actually be working and also and attend to school. So I agree with you, Renee. It's kind of like we have limited classes that we can take. We're pretty much limited because we have more responsibilities than other students, and I feel like we're not taken into consideration when um, you know, when when they're making the classes, it's like we're pretty much kind of like left out because they're not taking us into consideration. That's how I feel. What about you, Sonia?
So for me, what I expect from my college is more support for mothers and primary caregivers, because it is crazy as it has happened to Berenice and you, and also to people that have to work full time to make a living. We need more support because it's like you guys have said, you have literally had to choose, and has been my case too, between working and studying. And not everybody has that privilege. Some of us need to work to provide for ourselves and our families. A lot of us, even people that live in multi-generational incomes, households, sorry. So people are counting on us. So I think that we need that support for us that are not maybe younger, or maybe have to work full time, or have children. We need that support in order to get the higher education, to break these generational curses and give a better future for ourselves and our offspring. He said, what do you expect from your college?
Hello. Yes. Well, for my college, something that I was expecting was, to get into the practicum class, and it holds me back for so many years because, for example, not having insurance and you need the TV test. So it's like, where do I get it? Another thing is, you're on waitlisted, and then professors don't respond to you right away. So it's like you're waiting to see if you're gonna get into the class, but then it takes a long time. So I took a long time waiting to get into the practicum class where it holds me back into my career. Something that happened too is, you get into the practicum class and you expect that you're going to learn not videos from way before, it's videos from now, from what our children are actually behaviors, something that I'm going to actually be working with Head Start. I think that was one of the main ideals that I was expecting to have a better hands-on. I know COVID happened, and but we need more faculty too. Also, more teachers and more, I guess, more hands-on activities that we could actually learn how to do in practicum. Another thing is that I was really excited to be into the practicum class, but it discouraged me because I really didn't learn anything. It was just watch videos, and it's kind of anecdotal, something that we do at work every daily basis. But in the end, it was, let's work actually also on PRDPs, IDPs, because some of us, child development majors, we don't know what that is. But that's something else that we really need to focus on, because you got to understand that these college students are the ones that are going into the field. But do they know what they're learning? No, we don't need to learn videos that from 1960s. It's like, I don't even know what the child is saying. Let's look at videos and let's observe children that we can see.
And all of you had made a really great point. We have our struggles and we had expected certain things from our colleges. And this is where I will be asking, what would be the ideal college experience for you? Personally, for me, it would be having more guidance. I felt like going into college, I went in there blindly as a first generation student, as a Latina. I am also the oldest of my family. So my parents knew nothing about college. I didn't even know what major I should decide on. And so I felt like I had that kind of a barrier where I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was determined in having certain things, such as I wanted to start my own club. I felt like we needed to stay connected. That was my ideal thing as a college, to get connected with other Latinos or Hispanics within my school. Unfortunately, I did not get that experience because I needed the minimum amount of 10 people and I did not meet that requirement. So my club was not allowed to start. And though I was bummed out about that, um, I still want to have that experience of being able to bring together Latinos and Hispanics within my school and just come together and feel like we could connect with each other. That would be my ideal college experience, to find others just as me and connect with them and talk to them about our struggles or how we're going to be able to get through all of this. How about you, Berenice?
Yeah, you mentioned that you wanted a place to be able to be your sanctuary, right? At on campus. Initially, you thought that would be the bare minimum that we would be experiencing, and I actually I actually share that same experience, and that's sad to say. Like we should, if I experienced what you experienced, Vanessa, there's many other people that experience what we're experiencing. So I lost my job, as I mentioned. And before that, I never, ever, ever truly understood what the college experience was, because there's no inclusivity. There's no, let me make a, a fun day for these evening students. No, all these fun stuff and events happened in the day. So it wasn't until I lost my job that I started actually experiencing college, because I was there in the morning time. I never knew about clubs. I heard of them, but I never really, um, you know, I never really knew what exactly it was, because I never was there on campus at a regular time. I was always there in the evening. So when I lost my job, I actually experienced college, and I started noticing that there were so many clubs that dealt with so many different things, but there was not a club for myself, as you mentioned. So I came across one of my colleagues that was about to leave, and she had a club that was called Mothers of Color in Academia. But since she was already going to transfer, she needed to leave it to somebody else. And let me tell you, my experience was awful. This would have been an amazing program to be in. Not only mothers of color, fathers of color. It just happens to be mothers of color in academia. This program, this organization, this club, is actually in other universities such as UCLA, and I know I that was one of the ones that I had seen it on. But it's in many other college campuses. So I was willing, and I was ready, and I was empowered to take on this challenge as the president, or figure it out. But there were so many barriers I encountered. First off, we needed a, a person who worked on, there's so many stipulations, but we needed like a mentor who was going to be there during our meetings. We didn't have that, so that was one of the barriers. I needed a treasurer, all this good stuff. I couldn't get that. Yes, an advisor. I'm sorry, an advisor. I needed an advisor. I couldn't get an advisor. And it was a little bit difficult, because every time I would ask someone, they would be willing to be a part of the board, but guess what? They also had children, and they also had lives they had to attend to, full time jobs, that they couldn't just say, I'm going to drop everything and I'm going to go to the meeting at 8 a.m. on campus, because they have to be on campus too. So I was dealing with all this stuff, and I was like, why can't we just have a club for us? Obviously, we need a space. You need to be able to be willing to work with us, because we're all struggling with barriers. But it was very black and white, as we have seen. It was, no, you need this, you need that, and that, because you're going to be dealing with money or whatever the case may be. So a program, like you said, Vanessa, that was going to help all of us. And like our experience, many other students are still experiencing that. It wasn't as inclusive as I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to be able to just get this club up and running. There was going to be so many benefits to it. Mothers, fathers, first generation students, were people of color, you know what I mean? It was not just one type of person that was going to be able to fully benefit from this. So it was very tough to be shot down and be ready and motivated to create a space for us, make a space for us, demand a space for us. And it was not going to happen, because I needed to abide by these school rules. Let's stop those rules that don't apply to us when we have so many barriers already facing us. Just allow us to have our club. And that was a really, really huge heartbreaking thing that I had to let go of. And it never, as soon as my colleague transferred out to her university, guess what? That club organization, it just completely shut down. Nothing ever happened with it. So that was my experience. And we just need a space for us, and to be able to progress. And that is not happening, or have I seen. And I tried. So that is my experience. But I would like to bring it to you, Leticia. What have you experienced when it comes to like an organization or a safe space for you to be able to progress on campus?
Thank you, Bernice. So, my ideal college will be, like I mentioned it before, a little bit more support for students to kind of like feel safe, going into classroom without being judged. More flexibility from professors, them willing to work maybe like, later shifts until 5 to 8, whatever. So one of the things that I want to share with you guys, it's that something similar happened to me, Bernice, back and a while back when I was taking a math class. And as all we all know, life happens, you know. I was in a terrible car accident. I was taking a math class, a Rio Hondo. Um, I missed the exam, the test day that it was supposed to be because I was hospitalized due to the car accident that I was involved. When I went back to my class the following week, I talked to my professor. I took all of the documents that I had kind of like an excuse absent. I took everything, and he told me that I couldn't make up the test. That you know, he understand that life happened, but he wouldn't offer me a makeup test. Um, I remember then I was just kind of like crying. I was like, I feel humiliated, you know, because I was like, it's not that I planned it on not coming in to take the exam. I was hospitalized. I was not at home. I was not, you know, going out, whatever, with friends. So he told me that I couldn't take the exam. And he told me that the best bet for me it was to drop the class because I wasn't gonna be able to make up the points for the exam. And I remember staying after class, still trying to convince him to let me take the exam. I couldn't convince him. He said no. He said no. You can. I'm not gonna offer you the makeup test. Um, all you can do is drop the class. And I remember back then for me it was like a really hard decision and a sad decision because I was like I was putting so much effort into this class for somebody to tell me no, I cannot give you a second chance. Um, it was just kind of like heartbreaking, you know. So I made the decision. I dropped the class. Um, I was disappointed. I was like, I didn't plan for me to be, you know, in a hard position where I was hospitalized that I couldn't make it to to do the exam. And it was just like, why can't we have more teachers who can be able to understand us? um, to be able to say, yeah, life happens, you know, let me give you a second chance. Let me, you know, have a little bit of consideration for you so you can move, you know, forward on your career. And I feel like a lot of the times teachers don't really take that into consideration. And it's like, well, yeah, we know life happens, but what can we do? It's like we have no support in a way from some of the professors because the fact that I understand we have to go to class, we have to be there, we have to turn work, we have to, you know, follow all the syllabus and everything. But I feel like they've been through this as well, but they don't have consideration towards us because um, it's just, it's hard, you know. I mean, I'm out of words. It's just a hard experience that I had, and it was, and I'm not gonna lie, it's actually holding me until now for ask for help, for ask to professors if I needed more time. So it's a struggle because sometimes, like I said, things happen that are out of our control, and it's like we shouldn't be. I feel like we shouldn't be forced to make a decision if we wanted it to still uh, be in the classroom when something happened, or if we need to drop it because they're not willing, professors are not willing to work with us along our way. Um, so that's my experience. What about you, Sonia?
First of all, does everybody hear me? Does everybody hear me? Okay. So first of all, I wanted to tell you, Leticia, that I really feel for you. That was like a horrible experience. And how hard must that have been to be dealing with that trauma of the car accident physically and emotionally? And on top of that, feel like you're not being seen, like you're not being considered, like you don't matter, like nobody should have to go through that. And it makes us wonder, had I not been a person of color, would have I been treated the same way? So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that, you know. And I think I had a Daniel Kaluuya moment earlier, so I was muted while I was talking. I didn't unmute. So I just wanted to recap very quickly on what I was saying earlier about what I expect from the college. And it's just like more support for mothers and primary caregivers, as well as students who have to work full time. I think definitely a first step would be for El Camino College to have a childcare program too. And also for part-time students and evening students to be able to benefit from that as well. As from what we were saying, our current topic, I think something that has affected me a lot was that I started to study during the pandemic and fully online. So I haven't even been able to have any access to these clubs or this like networking in college. And also, since I come from Puerto Rico, even though Puerto Rico is a US territory, things are different. So I have had like a trouble understanding how things work here, college wise and institution wise. So I've been like having kind of a struggle. Um, I enrolled in the winter semester, which is when I met Professor Yadira, and I enrolled in 3 classes. In Puerto Rico, there's no such thing as winter. So after I enrolled, I saw that that was only like 1 month, like 4 weeks. And I was like alone at home during the pandemic with the baby. And I was like kind of going crazy because I was like, I enrolled in it, like I need to do it now. And it was pretty hard, but I got through it. But I'm just having like a bit of a hard time understanding how everything works here. What about you, Lisette? What's a struggle for you right now in that regard of like social aspect of the college experience?
Yeah, I think, well, for me it's more support. I mean, somebody to actually motivate you, to tell you, come on, you gotta, don't take all these classes. It took me like 10 years to finish all my classes, but it's that support to tell you, like, hey, take math and finish it. Not that, I waited so long. And I mean, a lot of guidance. That's something that we need more, child development counselors, because if you guys know, at Rio Hondo, we only have two. And I know their appointments are, you're trying to get into the classes right away, but then you need to talk to a counselor. So I'm so thankful that we have Irene Boo, because she's really good at, getting to us, but we need other as well.
Yeah, and we could all agree that we need flexibility in our colleges. Leticia, I am so sorry that what had happened to you was not accommodated by your professor. Your professor could have had done something else to accommodate to what had happened to you, and it was very unfortunate. And what we need is flexibility within the colleges, whether it's the professors or the school being able to find something for everyone, if for students who take classes in the evening to join clubs, for the clubs not to be having to present themselves like at 8 in the morning, like how Berenice had said. A lot of us need a support group, whether it's for mothers, for Latinas or Hispanics, or any other cultural group. We need somewhere where we could be. And I think the rules have to be lifted a little bit, because there's so many rules that we have to meet in order to have this club starting and going. And with that being said, what are the type of club organizations you would like to have at your college and why? And as I have mentioned, I wanted to start my own club that had to do with not Latinas in specific, but anyone, Latinos, Hispanics, whoever wants to join, who wants to feel like they are a part of a group, but they feel included with everyone in our school. And I feel like that would have been important, because we wouldn't feel alone. We wouldn't feel like we're just alone in this big school and we're just walking around it blindly. I would also feel like a student government would be important. I feel like by having a student government, we could have them understanding what it is like as a student being in community college and having all of these struggles being understood, and presented by them and not just by the faculty or the college, because although they do have their own issues as well, a student government is going to know more of what students are going through. They're going to relate more with students because they are students themselves. So personally, I think any club or organizations would be cultural clubs and a student government. That's something that I would have at my college. How about you, Berenice?
Yeah, it's so frustrating to hear that these are still struggles that we're having, and you would think that, there would be a space for us, and obviously there's not. And like you mentioned, Leticia, that I hate hearing that, because as you guys, I'm a little bit more outspoken. So like when I went on campus, I kind of like would vouch for myself. Um but I was still a little bit timid because I didn't know the college experience, right? I didn't know. I knew, as your high school teachers always told you, college is different. Da, 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 da. So I didn't know, but as soon as I started getting comfortable and I started seeing, like, if you don't speak out for yourself, like, you're just gonna get left behind. So it's like, Leticia, what about if someone who has a more timid personality, and like, they are not gonna get the same help that someone who would be definitely outspoken and say, like, I need more test time, or I need this, or I need that. And I think one of the biggest things when it comes to approaching our instructors is, what if we had a space, like, I want to share with you guys, I'm a disabled student. I have learning disabilities. So I have a program that I go to that tells my instructors, hey, Bernice needs this, this, and this, and this in order for her to succeed in your classroom amongst the rest of the typical students in your classroom. She's atypical, who's being put into a typical classroom setting. So here are the things and tools she needs in order for her to be able to be successful. And those teachers have no choice but to say, okay, I have to allow her to do that because this program is enforcing those rules. What if we had a program for us who, needed the extra support, you know, and enforced whatever A, B, C, D, whatever. For Leticia, how could she not, with the proof that she shared to her instructor, how could she not be accommodated? If we had a club or an organization or someone vouching for us and saying, this person needs your assistance, you need to give her extra time, this is being enforced, they would have, as much as I respect the professors, and that is their domain, they are allowed to do what they will, but I really think that if you don't give, a place for us or a safe space for us, we're gonna fall through the cracks. And Leticia should have never ever been dropped from that class or not given extra test time. And she experienced that. I've experienced that. But I demand, I demand now, because if I don't demand, they will, oh, let me think about it. And then I get back to them. So, did I still need more time on this, please. I have my son here, I need more time. I wasn't able to get to it. Life happens, but we need to be accommodated. Um, so I think that definitely if we had like disabled students program, that's a place, that's a literally a room filled with counselors vouching for us and fighting for us. If we had a place for Latinas or whatever it was, I'm not trying, I want this place to be inclusive, so I really don't want to put a label to it. But people who are not competent, like, so, not competent, but I'm saying that very incorrectly, but somebody who needs assistance in explaining to students how things work, or what rights they have, or what accommodations they should have. Like, Sonia has not that familiarity with how it works over here. She's from Puerto Rico. There are many other students like her on campus that are coming from different places of the world who need assistance, and these counselors or these mentors are going to say, you need to accommodate her, you need to explain this to her. we need that. We need that on campus, to have our back. Just like, I have that in another program for disabled students. I don't want to put a label to it who to say like this would be a Latinx um, program, but definitely a program for all of us to be able to be successful. But I would like to bring it to Leticia. So I understood that you didn't feel comfortable with approaching your instructors, but how do you approach them now and request your accommodations now?
Hi, thank you, Bernice. So, I know, and thank you everybody for the messages. I feel like now, like you said, maybe with time, and also because I maybe wasn't, not that I wasn't mature enough, but I didn't know what to do in that situation. Because I mean, like I said, in high school they never teach us, or in school they never teach us how to react or how to, to do when something big and traumatic happened to you. So from now on, I do kind of like realize in me that it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to go above and beyond. If somebody's not listening to you, maybe try somebody else. Maybe let them know how you feel when you're taking that class, and letting them know like, okay, like there's um, deadlines that we have to meet throughout the semester. But like I said, things happen and things out of our control. So I learned that to kind of like to speak up and let the professors know, okay, mind you, I don't really ask professors for like an extension, but it's like I accepted and know that it's okay, like I said, to ask for help. So I have learned that if I need a little bit extra time, go ahead and send them an email. But that's another issue that you guys mentioned. Sometimes they don't respond back to you, right on time. And it's like, should I turn it in incomplete, just at least so I can get a couple of points, partial credits, or should I just kind of like don't turn it in and wait until they respond to me? So it's kind of like and it goes back to having more professors having more flexibility to you. I get you that it's kind of like you're working at your own pace while going to college or higher end education, but at the same time sometimes I feel like professors are just there to teach a class but not to teach students. um, and I also feel like you said, Bernice, some of us need a little bit extra time. I'm a visual learner, so if I don't see what is going on, it's not coming into me. It's not a disability, but it's just how I learned. And I feel like a lot of professors, they don't really take the time to actually teach a classroom, or different ways for you to learn the material that they're giving to you. So I feel like we actually need, like you said, maybe like an organization, clubs that um, for us to feel a little bit more kind of like fitted into college experience. Also, I would like to have like cultural clubs, like you said, not to label, in a specific ethnicity, but I do feel like just sometimes by the way we look or how we look, we're kind of like get um, excluded, I mean, from them. I would like so like to see more workshops, like in the afternoon, for us to get grants, scholarships, because I noticed that now through the pandemic that I've been kind of like a little bit more flexible to join any of the webinars, but they're literally at the middle of the day. And it's like I don't really pay a lot of attention because I'm also working. So I feel like that has to change, like it has to change where all of us or whoever who wants to be part of or get any grants, any scholarships, to be kind of like placed on the right time, have a more, more show times, more workshop times, for us to kind of like feel included and not really kind of like be left out of college experience. What about you, Sonia? What are your thoughts about that?
First of all, I want to give a shout out to Berenice for self advocacy. And I think that's something I'm trying to get stronger on. And that's something that we've been talking these last few days in the group about how important it is to develop that strength and that self advocacy, because sadly there are not institutions who advocate for us, or at least they're not as available to us that we know about it. So I think it's definitely important, and it goes to speak about the importance of these groups because we encourage each other to stand up for ourselves. And just basically, my point is basically very close to what you and Berenice were saying, that it's definitely necessary for an office or an organization that advocates for students of color and especially Latinx. Like, it's not a bad thing for us to have our own space. I think like other ethnic groups have their own spaces too, and that's not excluding anybody. That's just recognizing diversity. And as Latinx, we have our own experiences, and it would be also good to have a group that specifically advocates for us and work with other groups of other ethnic groups. We can work together too. And another thing that I found really interesting about what Letty was saying and Berenice about how you guys have different learning styles. And I think that it's very interesting how us as students of education, right, we're learning all about different learning styles, about different techniques to adapt to students. But when we see the way the institution is built, is completely against that, completely against all that we've known and all that the philosophers, the theories they have developed. It's not in consonance, you know. So I think that the institution should be built more on how we know that humans learn and humans develop, and not just forget about it only for early childhood. And what about when you're an adult? Like, it don't matter anymore. It's throughout our lifetime. What about you, Lisette? What do you think?
Well, I would want to see more career clubs, also having more workshops on Saturdays where, some of us are available. More webinars, just like us girls, how we're discussing different, conversations. I would love to see more of this so we could get other students to be involved. Having this communication among us is making us stronger, and it's making us, come on, girls, like we got this. I know, COVID's been going on and everything, but getting to know this, there's a lot of people that are going through depression right now. They're going through, hard times. We need more support, just like us girls, Latina X, and you guys were all doing amazing. We have to be keep on. I feel like we really need to keep on doing things like this.
And I agree with you, Lizette. I feel like there has to be more being able to be a part of a webinar. It has been a blessing to me, all of you. And to have something where I feel like I could be included and talk about anything that has been going on. And so with that being said, like there has been, all of us have been through many issues, and whether we feel like it is a big deal or not, or if it felt valid or not, in within these talks it has been feeling valid. And we have many issues within the schools, and you guys have also talked about enough courses being offered in the evening, or being having more things available in the evening. So the question that I will be asking you all are there enough courses offerings available that fit with your schedule as a student or a student parent? Personally, I've had my own issues where at one point I had to take a class, but there was no classes available, and I had to end up taking that class for the summer. That way I could take the next class for the upcoming semester. So I had to change everything. I had already had a class that I was going to be taking for the summer, and I had to pick one or the other because at the time I was an incoming freshman. I could not take more than one class. So I had to pick one or the other. And I ended up picking my prerequisite class. That way I could take the other class for the upcoming fall. And I felt like there could have been more available classes for me That way I could have signed up for the class that I needed for the fall instead of having to push everything around and move everything around within my scheduling. That way I could take that class. So that was my struggle, even as an incoming freshman. How about you, Berenice?
Yeah, as I mentioned, there are not enough course offerings for a mother of color who is trying to progress and get her high, get into higher education. No, there's definitely not how should I say, like a road for us. There's definitely not. So like I I I wasn't able to. I took a lot of courses I did not need to take, but because my, and that's a thing that I find very like, it's so heartbreaking. Like, how could a counselor look at you and know that you're struggling and know that you don't feel comfortable with that and know that that was not your first choice to choose, and instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to bring this up to the dean, and you know what, a lot of people have said the same thing, that your course is not available, instead of saying that, they signed me up for courses that I really didn't need, and I'm not going to be using when I graduate, you know what I mean? So definitely there was not many courses for me to take initially. And again, I didn't take the courses that I truly needed and got down to the nitty gritty until I lost my job. And I had that time, unfortunately, I had that time on bad terms, instead of, setting me up for success beforehand. And that's a thing, like, when we're speaking, and we're we when we're asking for this, we're looked at as like Sonia said, like, if we're exaggerating, like, this is not like an exaggeration. Like, is that because I'm a person of color that I'm being portrayed as, like, asking too much? I'm not asking more than what the other students are getting, but we're not being included in it. So that's been very disheartening when dealing with that at Rio Hondo. But just like this conversation has happened, like, if we had a place for us to speak like this on a monthly basis or whatever, changes would be happening. We would make a space for us in order for us to have the courses that we needed, or not waiting a year like Lisette, Lisette, like, not waiting longer than we had to get a course that we need so that we can be able to move on with our lives. No, that's not how can the college look at you and say with a straight face, like, that's okay to do to someone? That is not okay. Nobody should go through that. So definitely there are not enough course offerings at our community college that I've experienced even till this day. The only reason why I'm able to take them now is because I'm unemployed, and that sucks to say, but it's the truth. So with having said that, I would like to ask you, Leticia, how has your experience at Rio been with your courses?
Thank you, Bernice. I'm actually facing that right now. I only need my math class in order for me to transfer. Um, and it's like I'm not even able to register because, like I said, I work full time. I'm a full time employee, and most of the math classes are in the morning. And it's kind of like upsetting because I'm like, I can't be a part time, you name it. I have mortgage, utility bills, whatever that I have to pay, that I have to be on a full time job. But I also want to work on my higher education, and it's kind of like holding me back a step closer just for me to transfer out. It's my math class. And it's like I can even register, and I looked, like, I've been trying to search for classes, and there's a bunch of classes in the morning, a lot of them. And when I change into like evening classes, there's only like one, and then it's like you also have to do lab, and I'm like, well, at what time? I get up at 5 from work. At what time are you expecting me to do the lab? Like, it's kind of like they have to change that, like I said, they have to kind of like accommodate us and make us fit into that criteria, and so we can move forward and don't be stuck, because I feel like I graduated and back in 2018, and that's the only math class that it's been holding me back. And it's like you said, Bernice, meanwhile I'm taking like random classes so I don't lose my spot in line, and I don't have to register again and go through the whole process again. So it's like it's upsetting because it's been almost 2 years that I like, I would have kind of like been maybe ready to graduate with my bachelor's instead of still having my associates. So it's yeah, like I said, I'm facing that too, and I feel like all of you guys said, we don't really have a lot of support, you know. And I would love to see a change, not only for me but also for like the next generations, for my nephews, that they're also struggling because um, the professors, the high school professors, are making them make a decision that they're not ready for. They're it's like yesterday my nephew was telling me, like, he called me crying at 11 o'clock. I made a decision. They want me to go to Long Beach, stay Long Beach, call stay Long Beach. He's like, I'm not ready to move out. I'm not ready to leave my parents. I'm not ready to be living on a dorm. And I said, okay, then what's going on? And he's like, I've been forced by my professors to accept to go to that college because since I get a scholarships, they want me to go there. And it's like, you shouldn't be pressured, you shouldn't feel pressure. And it's like, he's a first generation too, kind of like from his part of the family. And I'm like, I can see it now that there's not a lot of support, and it's like we have to definitely see a change. Like we have to do something in order for like the next generations to be able to feel comfortable and to go wherever they need to go and don't go through the struggles that we went through or we're going through still. So it's yeah, it's hard. So what are your thoughts, Sonia, about that?
So, to be completely honest, since I'm studying online, so far I have not had any problems with become something that's not been my experience. That in theory everything is there, like we have counselors, we have advisors and such, but are they really working towards the benefit of the student, or are they really just focusing on going by the bureaucratic rules instead of servicing us, which the students are the sole purpose the institution exists in the first place? Yes, there are rules, but are those rules fair to all the students that go to that institution? Because if not, which is what we think that it's not, we need to rethink this, because all of this was created in another time that students were mostly just full-time students and didn't have to work and didn't have all of these other factors that we have been talking about so far. So that I think that we need to rethink the institution and its rules as a whole. Lisette, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts is that we need to have more evening classes and, more classes for all the students to be able to attend. I feel like I know most of the classes are offered in the morning, but they should offer them also as well in the evening or even on Saturdays. I know there's certain ones that they offer them, but I feel like in order to get more students to come into our community colleges, we need to be able to have more flexible hours as well.
And I agree. I had also just thought about my upcoming schedule. I was looking at my classes that I need to take for my major, and I had seen that two of my classes, there's only one class being offered with a limit of about 30 students for both classes. And it just had me thinking about how I feel like I have to rush to sign up for that class. And that class is only in the morning. Imagine for the others who are not available in the morning and are in the same major as me. And they feel like they have to rush to that class as well to sign up. I also have an internship, and thankfully they are flexible, but it is kind of not very convenient because I have to change everything around in order for me to have those two classes at that time, and having to force myself into rushing into signing up for that class. That way I could get that spot into that class right away. Even though we're already online, I feel like there should be more than just one class offering for both classes. And that's the struggle that I'm sure a lot of people are also having. I just have an internship and thankfully they are very flexible, but others who are working or others who may have an internship as well and are not as flexible, um, it's going to be more of a struggle for them. And another question that I want to ask all of you is, how does the college recognize individuals with financial need? Um, as I mentioned, I only have an internship. I do not work. My parents, they're very hardworking people, but we do not make much as a family. And I have offered myself to start working. When the pandemic had started, I was taking college classes in high school. And so in high school, um, I had taken up to 15 units within my high school career, and so that's enough for a semester. And I had told my mom, if you need me to drop out for a semester in college, I will drop out. I have enough to drop out for a semester. Therefore, I could start working during that time and start helping out. My parents did not want me to do that. My parents had always put my education first, thankfully, and they have always wanted me to just focus on my education and not want to work and drop everything that I have as my education. I have always been putting everything that I could for my education. I was always doing good in high school. And thankfully, we did have support during the pandemic or when everything had first started. One of my teachers had came to my house and she dropped off groceries, helping us out because I was worried that we weren't going to make enough to be able to buy groceries because prices were rising. We couldn't find certain things at the grocery store. And so I had a lot of trouble thinking about, how are we going to do it during the pandemic? How am I going to do it in the future? Should I start working and drop out? That way I could be able to help out my parents. Um, and so far, I haven't had to do that, but it is always still in the back of my head thinking about, what do I have to do in order to help out and to be able to support myself in the future, because it is a struggle that I'm going to eventually have to meet. So Berenice, I would like to ask you the same thing. How does the college recognize individuals with financial need? Because thankfully I got financial aid, but I don't think it's going to be enough in the long run.
And let's just round of applause for you, Vanessa, because you are resilient, you are strong, you're like the rest of us who are having to teeter totter. Sometimes, okay, I'm paycheck to paycheck, like if I'm not making ends meet, I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do it next week? How am I going to do it in the next 2 weeks? How am I going to do it next month? Like we're living like that. This is how I'm sure other people deal with it, but the Latin X community definitely faces that. And, you struggle with, having to help your parents out, and a lot of students are dealing with that. And where are we getting that financial stability in college? There's no space for us. So when you're asking me, how does the college recognize individuals with financial need, they're not. It's almost like a blessing in disguise. As much as this pandemic has affected all of us, there was grants that were being given to us as students. There were like care grants, but why did it have to take the world shutting down? Because we globally shut down for you to help students and individuals or household members. Like, how come we're not getting these grants that we're not going to get it? If we as work study, I've experienced that if you do work study, you're going to get less financial aid. So when these grants came in during the pandemic, that's not going to affect your financial aid. So it actually, I was like, okay, I took it and I was able to feel comfortable with taking the check from the college because I was able to buy groceries or whatever, but comfortably because I know that that wasn't going to affect my financial aid. So it's almost like there's barriers upon barriers because we're like, yeah, we can do work study. And then like, yeah, but work study is going to really affect your financial aid. It affects it. It decreases your financial aid. So even if, you know, it doesn't matter what amount you were getting, if you're doing the hours, the week, 20 hours a week, you're going to get, your financial aid is going to get affected. So the college isn't helping us. There should be more grants, more, you know, that we're not going to get our financial aid affected. And I myself, I myself am using my financial aid to pay all my bills. I am a mother, so I have had to stay home with my son throughout this entire year. It's already been more than a year now since everything shut down, and guys, I have had to keep more than the minimum. One semester I did 17 units, 15 units, just because I needed more money. And, you know, the more classes you do, you're going to get more financially. But this is the transparency that I want to keep. And that's very personal, but I want to share with you guys what exactly we're going through. Like, this is, I consider educating myself my job. So when I get whatever scholarship money I get, all that goes to living and keeping a roof over my son's head. So that's what we're dealing with. So when you're asking me what is the college doing to help support us financially, they're not doing much. I'm doing it myself by, you know, applying myself to financial aid. Not many students know that financial aid even exists. So that's how I'm keeping afloat. That's how I'm, you know, utilizing all my resources and saving money when I can, if I can. But that's not necessarily a choice that I have. I don't have. Nothing was given to me. I don't have. What should I say? Um, I wasn't given any money from grandparents or parents. None of that. I don't have a trust fund. But that is where, you know, the community college should teach us all this and assist us, and we're not really given that assistance right now. But that is my experience, and I would like to ask you, Leticia, how does the college recognize you as an individual with financial need?
Thank you, Bernice. I agree with you. I don't think they really I don't know if they're not aware of a lot of, like us, students are going through a lot of things. I remember that I paid out of my pocket for my associate's degree. I asked for no help. But now that I actually need the help for my higher education, I've been told that I no longer qualified for it. Um, so it's kind of like putting me to think that, do I really have to, you know, get another loan, because I don't feel support from colleges, from nothing like that. I have now barely reached out to um, clubs, you know, to kind of like find out about scholarships. Honestly, I find out through a class that I'm taking right now, and it's already too late because all of the scholarships are closed, and I'm ready to transfer in the fall semester. Like you said, it's uncertain because I'm like, this is what they don't see. They don't see the whole picture. I'm the head of the household. I pay my mortgage. I'm the one who kind of like pays for everything, groceries, everything. I get no help from nobody else, from college, from grants, from, you know, you name it. I remember when they said they were gonna give out the care grants. I reached out to Rio Hondo, asking them, but unfortunately, I was only taking one class, and they told me that I didn't qualify for that grant. Um, I was like, why not? You know, I'm a student. I'm paying for my classes. I'm paying for the fees. I'm paying for the registration. Why can I be part of it? You know, just because I'm not taking, you know, two, three, 4 classes, it doesn't define me as a person. Maybe that's all I could afford for that semester. Maybe I could only afford one class, you know? So I don't feel that they're taking us really, or students, into consideration when it comes to financially, because I feel like, and it goes back to the same thing. It's like everything is kind of like just catered for like high school students, you know, morning students, early classes students. And what about us? You know, so I honestly feel like we're limited on any financial help that we can get. like I said, because they don't take into consideration that I'm the head of the household. So even if I apply to get, FAFSA, whatever, I don't qualify for it because apparently I make too much money to pay for my school. But it's like, that's not really, like the real. You guys are not seeing the whole picture. You're not seeing that I have so many expenses, but yet I still want to get a higher education and I'm limited to what I can do. So that's kind of like what I think about, college supporting us financially. Um, what about you, Sonia?
Well, it seems Sonia has been disconnected. Um, so oh, she has come back. Well, if she can connect back again, Sonia, if you could speak again.
Hi, yes, sorry. It was the connection went out, but I'm back here.
No worries.
Um, yeah, so what I was thinking also about when we're talking about financial aid and all of that is something that we talked about earlier, which was the awareness of these financial aids that are available to us supposedly. How do we know about them? How easy it is for us to find out about them. And I feel like that is a, a huge problem because a lot of times I hear people say, oh, there's this type of help for Latinas or for women of color or for mothers. And then it's like, you don't, where are they? How do I apply for them? And I think that's a huge part of the problem. How do we get a hold of these supposed aids that exist for us? What do you think, Lisette?
We're just we'll leave it as that. It
Oh, sorry. I
no
wanted to
worries.
remind everyone to go to the link in the chat and leave the feedback for this activity to let us know their thoughts. So just go to the link in the chat and let us know.
Yes, there is a link. We want to know about your feedback, so hopefully we could get some of that. And thank you everyone for joining in and to listening to all of our stories. We definitely all have had our own struggles. We have had our good days and our bad days, but we are getting through it. And these barriers aren't going to always stop us. We we will find a way to go around it, to go through it in any way. So thank you. And is there any questions?
Hi, girls. There actually is a question and I do believe in the chat that it was specific to Vanessa, and I'll go up. Now that we have been 100% virtual, would you prefer classes 100%? And I think each of you guys can answer this because the feedback, you guys have done an incredible job. I'm sure everybody who's listening in, and that also is listening from the YouTube channel. So let me go back to that. Now that we have been 100% virtual, would you prefer classes 100% in person, 100% online, or 50-50? How do you learn best in person or online? This is a very, very complex, unpacked question. So let's just break this up into one. First of all, this is just your experience in virtual. Do you think 100% or online or 50-50, or even break up the percentages for you in terms of in-classroom instruction and as well as the virtual instruction? Can you answer that part A question? We'd love to hear your feedback.
Personally, I would probably say 50-50. I am good both learning online and in person. For math, I would say in person would be best for me, but for everything else, I would say both online and in person is good for me. Though I do kind of prefer online because I am just behind a screen and I don't have to feel worried about standing up and speaking in front of the whole class. I could just stay behind the screen and say what I want to say without feeling like everyone is exactly looking at me, or just I feel like I'm being judged or anything like that. I'm an introvert, so I very much prefer being behind a screen.
I would like to say that I'm very much like you, Vanessa. Even though it doesn't seem like it, I feel so comfortable. As tough as this pandemic was, let's just be honest. This was a help to all of us, and it was just the only thing that was challenging was having to balance 20 different hats. You know what I mean? So, first off, not asking, like not asking us like, oh, what do we prefer? It's like we should tell the professor like this is what we prefer, and then them or the campus allowing us to do whatever we would like. I wish I would have had this since I started college, since like, because there's more classes that are available, as Sonia mentioned, right now, because we are online. So I don't know if that changed the roster in any way, where professors had to accommodate more students, and that's what allowed me to get into some of the classes that I've been needing. So I always dreamed. I remember, like, even in a regular class, I knew I had a ton of obligations, or I needed to be with my son for whatever reason, and I would think, why can't there just be a an accommodation for me so that I can have the professor being recorded, and I can, virtually be at home while the students that want to be in class are in class. So why isn't that a thing for us? You know what I mean? That's what I mean about inclusivity. Like, we should be able to do whatever we want at our college because we're paying for our classes, instead of, saying, oh, these are the only online classes, only online, or these are the only remote classes. Like, how about we just put a recorder, have them recording it, and then, like, even if we were participating at that moment or not, we can go back, because my online classes right now, they're all recorded. So even if we're participating at that moment, we have the ability to go back and look at the entire class that we had. So it's like that would help me so much more be the mother that I want to be, and be attentive, and be supporting, and then also still follow my own dreams and attend college and continue my education. So, like, I think this pandemic opened a doorway to kind of like asking those questions, like, how come we can't just keep this type of environment for the people it works for? Because, like, it works for me, and allow the students to go back on campus if they want to go back on campus. It's just leave it up to us. Don't tell us what to do. You know what I mean? But anybody else, what do you guys think of my crazy idea?
I agree with you, Bernice. It's sad to say that we needed it to go through a pandemic in order for colleges and universities, whatever, or just like a school system, in order for them to be a little bit more flexible. Um, and it's kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, it's like I was asking my professor, are we going back in person? Because, like you said, um, I worked, I'm pretty sure a lot of other people worked, and it's kind of like that feeling of rushing, driving to, to be on time to class, because there's a lot of professors that they do it, and I get it, they do it to keep like a good attendance, whatever. They do quizzes at the beginning of the classes, and it's just kind of like having that fear that I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna get, I'm gonna lose those points, because it's not that I'm not planning to be on time, it's that I also have to work, and I'm trying to be on time to this class, but it's kind of like, how can I do it? I can't control the traffic, I can't control all the accidents, things that happen. But I do feel like now it's a little bit more flexible, because, like you said, we're working from home. It's kind of like a safe space that we have. And like you said, we feel more comfortable like speaking up, because it's like nobody's like staring at you, even though it's through, I mean, they're looking at you through the screen, but you don't feel that pressure being like in front of the whole classroom and trying like to speak up for yourself. Um, so I do kind of like agree with you. Hopefully we get to keep more online classes, so maybe that can kind of like fit into like our busy schedule. So yeah, that's kind of like my thoughts about it.
Yes, I think the same way. I have greatly benefited from online learning, and it's better to adjust it to my lifestyle, to my duties as a mom, working, and all of that. I wouldn't even say 50-50. I would say 75-25, like most online learning, and then like certain activities, or just even like we're doing like Zoom, where you can at least see the faces of your fellow students and your professor and interact and still get that feedback from talking to others, that sometimes even though there are discussions on the Canvas, which is the platform we use in El Camino, but it's not the same as a Zoom meeting where you can actually see each other. So I would do just like a few maybe activities in person, but I honestly really like online learning. And I agree with Berenice in the fact that I think that this pandemic, specifically for me in a personal level, has been like a huge awakening to other possibilities and how we can improve things. So it's the same thing with academia and the institution of the university. What do you think, Lisette?
I think I love the online just because I work two jobs and it gives me more time where, hey, I'm not rushing to try to get a parking at Rio Hondo because you guys all know about parking. It's like fighting like crazy for a parking. But one thing is, I would love to just do online and maybe 25% if we're doing such a hands-on activities because we also have to attend other students' needs as if they're visual because some students are not just, they don't like to be in computers. So I agree with you, Sonia, on the 75 and 25%.
Is there any other questions that anybody?
Yeah, there was. Thank you, ladies, for that feedback. That's very helpful. And really, just everything that you mentioned, talked about today was so rich and honest and personal. And it's so important that all of us on this, we take this away and think about how do we move forward together inclusively. You guys gave us some great ideas. One of the questions was, and it really touches on the fact that all of you ladies had mentioned about basically your support alliance in education, right? Your alliance, which you don't even have the opportunity to have an alliance. That's what I'm hearing, like, right? So one of the questions is, how do you want to access student services on student services? So you already expressed to me that those are some of the challenges that you guys are experiencing, and they're not challenges that you've created. So how do you access student services online? You already shared with us basically in person. So how would you want to access student services online? And one or two of you, because of time perspectives, can touch on that.
Hi, so I will say maybe to have like a better range of hours, like the office hours in a way. Um, so not only kind of like an hour long, like only like from 2 to 3. So I feel like maybe have like a specific times out of the day, maybe like in the morning and then the evening, for like, to be more kind of like you said, inclusive for all of us to be able to kind of like call or log in into a Zoom meeting if we have a question. Um, so have like I will say maybe like a longer period of times where we can join or ask questions instead of just only getting an hour a week. That's kind of like my answer for that.
I agree. I have to sometimes accommodate my schedule with the only availability hours that are given. And sometimes for being able to join different organizations, I feel like I can't exactly find that on the website. So I feel like I'm always like bugging my counselor for for things to help me start joining in the same thing. I wanted to join student government and I could not find anything um, within the website. It seemed outdated to me. So I was bugging my counselor and he was bugging other people. And I finally got a message to be able to have an interview with student government. But I feel like that should be accessible for everyone because as I was looking for it, I couldn't find anything. And I'm sure other people would have wanted to join too, but it seemed outdated and nothing was seemingly available.
Anyone else? I think we conclude this,
We have
right?
sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Did we address Bobby Becca's question? Or,
Go ahead. Who will read it?
okay, I'll read it. I'll read it. It says, along the lines of accessing faculty through Canvas, I'm not sure how you, Pana, this feel, but it frustrates some that many faculty seem to refuse to actually check the regular college email. I just feel like students shouldn't be forced to only contact professors in Canvas. Sometimes it's just not feasible. Has this been a problem for any of you, having an alternative way to contact professors?
Well, as at least for me so far, I haven't had any trouble. I have been able to communicate with professors through Canvas, but it was like in the beginning, I didn't really know how to use Canvas because, as I said, it's my first time studying here in the continental US. So in the beginning, it was a little bit difficult for me, but once I got the hang of it, I was able to do it. But yeah, I found it weird, like why only through Canvas? Why can't we also use the regular email?
I want
The
to
one
share.
from the El Camino.
Yeah, exactly. A regular email address or why, you know what also really benefited us during this time? Not very many people had access to it, or maybe they didn't share it, but a lot of like some of my mentors had like this text thing where it was like Google, but it was through their email. So they would text us and it would kind of send it through the email. I don't know what that was, but all I know is that it was like an online thing that they would tell me, if you need anything, text me. I'm not going to be able to get to you quick because it's not I text it to your phone, but when it comes back to me, it comes back through my email. So I thought that was very interesting, and it's kind of like we need to push our professors and our college campus to be a little bit open to the different types of communications that people need, because not everybody is going to be able to go on Canvas onto their computer and then remember what they're going to write down, and then not very many have even a computer. So it's like we need to be able to access things differently. And not only that, I also saw that a lot of my older professors struggled a lot when it came to um, transferring to the online system. So when it was coming to like emails, they didn't email us. They would just tell us, oh, next class, remind me about this or that. So they struggled a lot, and I couldn't get to them. It would be take days to get to them. I understand everybody dealt with this and we were all struggling, but it was just like that they needed assistance, and we also needed assistance in finding other ways to communicate with our counselors, professors, whatever it was, to kind of get to them a little bit sooner, and then also assist them with how to communicate with us. So that was something that I experienced.
I agree, Berenice. One of my former professors, she had used this application called Remind. I would use it in high school if I had any of my teachers sending out messages to us or such. And if we did have questions, we were allowed to send a message back, and it was easier for them to get to us back faster, as opposed to us having to send an email and them having to constantly check on it on Remind. They would just get the notification on their phone, and they could reply to it as if it were a text message. And that's one of my professors had done. She had a remind with everyone in the class, and if someone had a question, we could send the message, and it were as if we had her phone number, but the phone number is like anonymous, I guess I could say. And it wasn't her actual phone number, but we were able to communicate like if it was text messages. So I feel like that was something easier for her and for all of us, as opposed to having to go back and forth by email.
Ladies, I'm going to ask you a question. And this is the last question. What student support services? I mean, I thought I answered this, but I didn't, so I apologize. I asked this, but what student support services specifically do you want to meet in person or online from your home?
Well, I would like to be able to communicate with everybody online, because as of now I'm fully online. I don't really have to go on campus for anything. So I would prefer to be able to communicate with with everyone, to get all my services online as well.
Yeah, Sonia, that's important. And it sounds simple, but it's not. Sonia is asking for everything to be online, and that's what I'm asking for. That's what I've been asking for since I was there. And then what a crazy thing happened to the world, that it was like poof, it's all available now. And you know what's going to happen when everything goes back to normal? All these services are going to be gone for us. No more counselor meets online, no more telephone meets, no more none of that. We're going to have to be forced to go on campus. And for a person who has to juggle many different hats, I loved everything, and everything was available for the most part, and I would like to keep it that way. So counselor meets, virtual, I've already experienced virtual college tours, all those things that we never thought possible was made possible because we had no other choice, right? So it's about that inclusivity, keeping that inclusiveness going, and not just saying, oh well, our doors are back open, so you're going to be forced to open back up too. It's like, no, like I think this works really well for me, and unfortunately it was a pandemic who enforced these things, but for me it works, so why not keep it if it works for me? Why are you taking those tools away from me that are helping me so much right now? So definitely everything, counselor meets, you name it. Speaking with my instructor, they have hours. I've already spoken to all my instructors because I think they're required to have hours to meet with their students. I'm not sure if it's required because not every professor I've encountered has had them, but this semester, yes, all my professors have hours, and I will definitely go right to their Zoom on the hour that they have and ask them all the questions that I have, and then we're good for the majority of the time for the exam or whatever the case may be. So that's what I'm experiencing, and if we can have it like this forever more, I would love to keep it like that.
Of course, this would happen. I have myself on mute. We're right at the time. We're 8 minutes over, and we could go more with this discussion, but I wanted to tell you, ladies, thank you for that answer. And the individual who asked that question said, thank you, Sonia and Berenice. We need your feedback to plan for how you need to get student services access. I want to wrap this up and just say everything that you said. I hope that those who were listening will also read in between the lines, because what I really heard that was very important is that we have some work to do to make inclusiveness specifically should be driven for female, Latinx, single, as well as single mothers and students of color. That's what I heard. And when I heard that, it is obvious to me that you've been quite successful in the online aspect, even though the challenges have been there. So whatever is the schools are doing and has been offered to you in online should be hopefully offered. Those who are in administration or in part of the planning process should be definitely walking away from this conversation and working with their constituents to make that happen. So thank you, ladies, for a well, raw, thoughtful, not just thoughtful, but a very intense conversation and being very confident about that. I'm looking forward to future conversations and even diving deeper into some areas that you mentioned today. Thank you, everyone.